Hello, I'm Malcolm MacDonald. I'm a professor of marketing at 6 of our top business schools in the United Kingdom, and I have the great honour of being co-author with Martin Newman of the book 100 Practical Ways to Improve Customer Experience. And I'm going to be asking Martin, who is an expert in this domain, some questions. So Martin, as an expert, what are your views on what's happening on the high street, and what do you think the future holds for retailers?
That's a great question, Malcolm. There's a lot of disruption on the high street. It's certainly not the death of the high street, as many are reporting. It's not Armageddon. I think it's a realignment. But you know, if you think about what's happening with the likes of Amazon and other disruptive brands who have been able to create compelling value propositions and driving great convenience for consumers through the breadth of products that they have to offer, their price transparency, and of course their fantastic logistics, where customers in big conurbations like London can, order and receive products within an hour. It's tough for retailers because established retailers are having to react to that. They're having to rethink how they engage with customers. They're having to rethink how they fulfill orders and essentially how they're able to compete and offer the same type of proposition that these disruptive brands are doing. And that's not easy when you've got a lot of legacy technology, sometimes people and processes in place. But I think the future's bright for retail, and I'll come on and talk about that, I think, a little bit later.
Thank you, Martin. What do established retailers need to do to transition their business to hold off the threat from online businesses and other disruptors?
That's a great question, Malcolm. I think established retailers have a lot to do in order to make themselves fit for purpose, to combat the threat of disruptors, both current and those that might emerge in the near future. Because essentially they have to put the customer at the heart of everything that they do to maintain their relevance and their engagement with customers. And that touches every part of their business, from their stores to their organizational structures, to their head office, to products and merchandising, social responsibility, which consumers are becoming obviously increasingly aware of. So I think there's a lot they have to do. If I maybe just touch on a couple of things, I think they need to repurpose their stores, because the stores at the moment are very transactional. I think they need to become more experiential. They need to work out how to leverage digital technology in the store environment to make it easier for people to buy, to take away some of the friction that we have in physical retail. I think they need to really think about the role that mobile has to play more effectively. At the moment, we generally market to consumers from a digital perspective through Google and other channels like that. And whilst they will maintain their relevance, I think we have to think about proximity marketing. As consumers are using their mobiles to find places to buy, find places to eat, then it's a great way to target consumers. So I envisage that we will have to be much more knowledgeable and proactive in how we engage with customers directly to their mobile device when they're in the vicinity of the physical environments of our businesses. And I think we need to rethink our organizational structures, because at the moment in most retail businesses, e-commerce and digital is quite siloed. It's quite separate to the rest of the business. And that means for the poor old consumer, they generally don't get that joined up experience. Customers want the right product in the right channel at the right time, as well as the right marketing communications. And if you have a siloed sort of organizational structure, it's going to be quite hard to deliver that. So I think there's going to be a lot of change coming for our retail businesses over the next few years.
Martin, what do you think consumer-facing businesses need to do to build lasting customer engagement? That's all consumer-facing businesses.
Sure. That's a really good question, Malcolm. And I think that one of the misnomers in the industry that we work in for all consumer-facing businesses to face into is we've talked about CRM for probably about 20 years now, customer relationship management. In my humble opinion, we don't build relationships with consumers, we transact with them. And we're generally good at that, whether that's, selling a pizza, delivering a meal, or a retail business selling fashion or other products. I don't think we have really thought about what it means to build relationships with consumers. If you sign up for emails from any brand that you think of, most of those emails are spray and pray. They're not segmented, they're not personalised, they're not really driven by you as an individual and what you really want to hear from that particular business based on maybe what you've bought before or what your level of interest is. And I think that's where we go wrong. One great example I'll give you, if you think about buying a car, probably the third largest purchase you're ever likely to make in your life after, buying a house and getting married. Car dealers, I think, are notoriously bad when it comes to communicating with customers. Most customers take out a contract, so they know they've got you for 3 or 4 years, and they can tell when that contract's going to come to an end, and therefore they should be communicating with you, I think, on a regular basis, and what they tend to do is leave it far too late in the day. Often by that point, you've already made your mind up to buy a different brand of car or from a different dealer, whereas they could have been keeping that relationship warm throughout the course of your life cycle of the contract that you had for the car that you'd bought.
Okay, the $64,000 question, and if you can answer this, I'm sure you will be considered to be the genius that we all know you are. What is the high street going to look like 10 years from now, Martin?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your kind words. The high street from 10 years from now, I think, will look very different to how it does today. I can certainly envisage there being artisan, independent retailers coming into our high street, a lot of independent business owners, and I think that will change what the high street looks like. I think that a lot of our traditional established multi-channel retailers will have fewer stores, because in 10 years' time, probably the majority of their sales will be online, will be through digital channels, and therefore they won't need the same size of store portfolio that they have today. But if you even think about in the next couple of years, click and collect orders are forecast to grow by 65-70%. So high street retail is not going to disappear, and retailers will still need stores to be able to deliver the type of experience that consumers are looking for. But I do think we'll have a lot more independent retail, and I think the retail will also be a lot more experiential. And I think that consumers will go into retail environments for an experience, and they might go in for more of an experience even than buying a product. And it might be that we find even established retailers that we have today using their physical environments to really immerse customers in the brand experience. We won't be using mobile phones as we know today, smartphones. In 10 years' time. We'll be communicating through other devices. If you believe people who have probably a better view of the future than I do, it may be through glasses, and we'll be walking into physical retail. We'll be using augmented reality for retailers to overlay all sorts of other rich content to immerse us in their experience and their brand and the products that they have to sell when we walk into their stores. So I think it'll look very different from how it does today.
Very exciting.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Malcolm.